Namaskar, welcome to this webinar. This is the second part of our Tantra webinar. Last time we talked a little bit about how one starts, how one begins on the path, how one searches for the teacher, how one finds the teacher, what takes us to find the teacher, our inner desire. And this time we'll go a little bit more into the philosophy of Tantra. Philosophy has also its importance, and we are going to see why. So philosophy has different parts. Like classical philosophy, we'll have this ontology and the metaphysics and the epistemology and ethics. But our philosophy also has two extra parts. One is spiritual practice and another one is psychology. Let's not forget that we are human beings and we are supposed to be the most advanced beings on this planet. Our structure, we have our body, physical, our mind, the psychic part, and the consciousness or the spiritual part, the spirit, the soul. This structure, this human structure, we are inhabiting this structure. Now, as a human being, what are we looking for? Here we are learning about Tantra. So why do we do it? Why we do so many things in our life? What are we searching for? So I like to ask you this question, but I want you to type it on the chat window. You will see one window there that is written chat. So what do you think is human beings really want in this life or in this existence that we have? What are we searching for? What would you say? So I see here to be happy, happiness, realization, lasting happiness. Okay. I did write that we want happiness, we want peace, we want a lasting happiness, as the last one mentioned. It means we don't want something that is only temporary, not for a short time. We want it all the time, like unlimited, infinite. So one going to the philosophy, the ontology part of the philosophy, our view is that everything is one. There is oneness. It means we don't have a dual view of the creation and us, or us and something else. That it is all one. Let's see how it fits all in one. First, we are thinking about us. We want this infinite happiness, this everlasting happiness. And going to philosophical terms, there are two important terms here. One in Sanskrit, Ananda, and the other one, Sukha. Both means happiness, but Sukha, the definition is that it's a congenial mental state. What does it mean? It means that when I want something and I get it, then there is a parallelism between what's in my mind and what is happening, and that creates a congenial mental state. I feel happy. If I don't get what I want, then I feel unhappy. So there is this flow: happy, unhappy, happy, unhappy. That will always be there. We may be doing meditation, we may be doing all the relaxations and everything, but in our life, there will always be these moments that we feel a congenial mental feeling and other moments that we do not feel it, according to the different things that happen in our life or the different thoughts that come into our mind. Now, the state of Ananda, which is that happiness that remains. It's not related to this getting something or not getting. It is an inner state, a very deep state within, where mind just fills up with bliss. It's like it overflows with bliss. So this sentiment just inundates the mind. So that is what we are looking for. So we are looking for some source that will give us that feeling. So this Ananda, this bliss, it is actually beyond the scope of mind. In the mind, we will feel a congenial mental feeling. So we feel sukha and we feel dukkha, the opposite of sukha. Sukha, dukkha. But bliss is something that goes beyond the scope of mind. So mind has to leap to a different kind of dimension in order to get this bliss. So it is something related to the unlimited, to the infinite. So it's related to the macrocosm. Let's say that we are the microcosm, the small, and then there is the macrocosm. So this macrocosm is related with something infinite. So this bliss can only come from the infinite. So this bliss can only come from the macrocosm. Now, in philosophy, the name given to this quality of happiness is Brahma. So this ultimate happiness, that is Brahma. Then Anandam Brahma. It means Ananda and Brahma are the same. We want this infinite happiness. We want this Ananda. It means we want Brahma. So in the end, we want that macrocosm, that infinite entity. So they both coincide. Ananda and Brahma is the same thing. We want this infinite happiness. That is Brahma. The word Brahma means one who is great, Brahma, great, and also makes others great. What does it mean? That when you come in contact with this Brahma, with this greatness, we also become great. We also attain that greatness. Now, to understand the philosophy, this same Brahma, which is one, which is also what we want, we give it different names so that we can understand its function, the way it is functioning. But it is just one. This Brahma has two parts according to the philosophy. One part is pure consciousness, and that we call Purusha. It is also called cognitive principle. And then there is another part, Prakriti, or operative principle. So one principle is like consciousness, the other one is energy. So these two together are two parts of Brahma. But still this Brahma is one, but has the consciousness, and there is the operative principle, which is the force or the energy. If Brahma was only consciousness, okay, suppose it's only consciousness, infinite, no expression, then nothing would exist. There would be nothing. If it was only cognition, only consciousness, there would be no universe. But we are here, the universe is here, so there must be something that makes this some change in this consciousness so that we exist, the universe exists. So that's something that is like an energy. So there is this infinite consciousness, And there is this other principle, Prakriti, that binds the consciousness. So it's the principle of Brahma, but it's the operative principle which changes this consciousness. Then Brahma, that same Brahma, can be, let's say, affected by this operative principle or not. Like, imagine a big ocean, and in this big ocean there is an iceberg. Okay, so it means that that water in a certain part came under the influence of, let's say, temperature and pressure and became ice. It's the same water. The water just nearby is also under the, let's say, temperature there is the same. So there is also that pressure of temperature, but it cannot affect it. So it's unaffected. But that part that became ice, that part is affected. So that is what we call Saguna Brahma. It means Brahma under the influence of Prakriti. And the other part, all the other water which is not coming under the influence of Prakriti, that is the Nirguna. Like Nirguna, it means without guna or not affected by guna. Saguna means with guna, affected by guna. So in Saguna Brahma, there is expression. In Nirguna, no expression. But it's the same Brahma. One is influenced by Prakriti. The other one, not influenced by Prakriti, but still is the same Brahma. Now I can ask you a question. I said in the beginning that it is all one. All right? It's all one. And at the same time, I'm saying that there is consciousness, means Purusha, and there is energy, Prakriti. So it is like two, right? So how can I still say it is one if there are two? So what would you say in that case? Think a little bit about that and type something in the question window. Let's just use the same windows that you were using, the question one. Okay, so the answers here were Shiva and Shakti are inseparable, therefore one. And then, like in the philosophy, that they are like two sides of a piece of paper. And another one, because the source is the same, it's all the same. Actually, yes, there is Purusha and Prakriti, or Shiva and Shakti, but in fact this Shakti is a principle of Brahma. It doesn't exist separated, and so Shiva and Shakti you cannot separate them. So it's like you cannot make two. In the example of the piece of paper, like a piece of paper is one. There is one side, there is another side. You cannot separate it. You cannot make it become two. It is one. It is still one. And here, what is the relationship? Shiva, or Purusha, consciousness, is the material cause of everything. And it's also the efficient cause. What does it mean? Material cause means it's like it's the raw material. It's the substance. Consciousness, everything is made of consciousness. And it is also the efficient force. It means that without it allowing, without it giving the permission, Shakti, or the force, cannot change it. So besides being the raw material, it is also the efficient cause. Now it gives the permission, then Shakti can operate, then Shakti can change it. So Shakti or Prakriti is the efficient cause. So now we have consciousness. And in the field, I just said in the beginning, everything is one. So everything is consciousness. Everything is consciousness. Now this consciousness gets modified, and we see me and you and the computer and many other things. We are all just consciousness modified by Prakriti, by the operative principle, by Shakti. So Shakti creates all these forms and shapes and colors, but everything is just a modified consciousness. In few words, the raw material of the universe is consciousness. Everything is consciousness. We just have to tune our mind to that consciousness, because if our mind is tuned to the changes created by Prakriti, then we see that. Then we see so many forms and we feel that we are separated from everything. But in fact, everything is one and everything is consciousness. So now the whole practice, we are doing the practice just to realize that everything is consciousness. Now, let's think about that Brahma, how it relates to the universe, how it relates to things. According to the role of the Supreme Entity, we give it different names. Why we do that? To understand better the philosophy. So in this case here, when the Supreme Entity is in the role of controlling the universe, now we are talking about the created universe, the universe we exist, we live in. So in this universe, it needs something to control it. And that something, that nucleus, is called Purushottama. So now this Purushottama is the Supreme Entity having the role of controller of the universe. This universe is created with 5 fundamental factors. Means ether, air, light, liquid factor, solid factor. So there are 5 factors, and that creates the universe. And the controller is the Purushottama. What? It controls all the created beings and entities. And it has 2 forces. One force is bringing the entity further from the nucleus. The other force is bringing the entity closer to the nucleus. So centripetal means brings close. Centrifugal means it takes it far. And the unit being, be it us or any other being, we are sometimes pulled in one direction, sometimes pulled in the other direction. So sometimes we feel very close to that entity, to that Supreme Entity, and sometimes we feel far. If we feel close, it means the radius, means the distance is small. If we feel far, that distance is great. The radius means we are still moving around it. We are still being controlled by that Supreme Entity, and we still have a relationship with that Supreme Entity, but it's just the radius is more, so we feel far, or the radius is less, we feel close. Now comes an important point. We have seen that we want infinite happiness, we want Ananda. Then we saw that Ananda is Brahma. Then we saw that Brahma, there is Saguna Brahma, that is Nirguna Brahma. Nirguna is expressionless. Saguna is with expression. And now we are moving towards Brahma. If we are moving towards Brahma, to reach to Brahma, we need some assistance, some help. How can we reach close to Brahma? So, who knows how to reach Brahma? Means, who can bring us to Brahma? Which entity? That is the question. So you can you type there in your question window, which entity will bring us close to Brahma? Okay, so there were different comments here. Let me go through all those comments. Okay, like practice, I understand it's not a separate entity, but a quality of Purusha. Yes, okay, that was related to the first question. The next question is like this. I said that Purusha gives permission for Prakriti to act. So here it says, but when you say it gives permission to act, then it has a form like humans. Okay, now we are in a realm here a little bit beyond our mind. Purusha is the consciousness. Prakriti is the force. Then force is blind without consciousness. Okay, for example, imagine electricity. Electricity is a force, an energy. Electricity doesn't think. It is always doing the same thing. It means you put your hands in the two wires, you get a shock. You may be a very good person or you are a bad person. The electricity is not thinking about that. It's just doing its duty. So Prakriti is like that. Prakriti has this tendency that it wants to bind the consciousness. So it wants to give a shape to the consciousness. It wants to bring the consciousness under its influence. It wants to do it all the time. Why one part gets affected, another one doesn't. So it doesn't depend on Prakriti, because Prakriti, if it is for Prakriti, everything will be affected, because it's always wanting to bring the consciousness under its influence. So it's always trying to do it. So now it is up to the Purusha, or the consciousness, to allow it to happen or to not allow. So for example, in the Saguna state, it allows. In the Nirguna state, does not allow. So, but Prakriti is always wanting to do it, always wanting to bind it. Then comes another question here, also related to that. Does Prakriti keep creating new things, new lives, or it created the universe and then evolution takes over? Actually, things are always happening. Means it's not that it did the creation and now everything is going by evolution is happening. It's not like that, because if you see, all the time more ethereal factor is being created, and that ethereal factor is being transformed into aerial factor, which is then transformed into luminous factor, then liquid factor, then solid factor. Again, solid factor will divide part of it. Okay, we are going to talk about this point now. Anyway, so the new more ethereal factor is being created and is going through the transformation, and then it's again new lives are being created, and so this is continuously happening. It's not that, okay, now the solid factor happened and then it creates the universe as we see, because there are the 5 elements, and then now the different beings in this universe are evolving towards realization. It's not like it already happened once, it's happening all the time. I'm going to bring this point again. So back to the question that was now, what is now the entity that takes us to realize Brahma? One answer is here, the Guru. So Guru will realize through meditation. So which is the entity? Ourselves. Again, ourselves or the Guru. And now, is the entity an energy or a human? Okay, now here, human, the moment we just think of us as human beings, we are in bondage. So if somebody is in bondage, then we cannot liberate from bondage. And the other question, the other answer here is Ishvara. And another one, Vivek or discrimination will. And the next one, in Sanchara, if Sanchara is still happening or now is Pratisancharya. Okay, we are going to go to that point. Back to my question, we want to go to Brahma, so who will take us to Brahma? The thing is that the secret of Brahma is only known to Brahma. So if to take us to Brahma, only Brahma can take us to Brahma. Now the Brahma will, Nirguna Brahma, let's say Nirguna Brahma, is expressionless, infinite, eternally blissful, no waves. So there is no connection between us and that Nirguna Brahma. So it's very difficult that Nirguna Brahma will give us some attention and think, let me liberate you. That will not happen. So now, okay, that was Nirguna Brahma. Now we come to Saguna Brahma. Saguna Brahma is, Prakriti is active in Saguna Brahma. So what's happening in Saguna Brahma? All this creation, everything is happening within the scope of Saguna Brahma. So Saguna Brahma is creating, maintaining, and destroying. So it's eternally busy in that work. So Saguna Brahma also is under the influence of Prakriti. So now we are going to be liberated from the influence of Prakriti. So this Saguna Brahma is also is not personal. How you can have a relationship with this Saguna Brahma. So now this Nirguna, Saguna, there is another expression or another, let's say, form or another role of Brahma. And then there is Brahma in the role of the one who liberates us. So that in Tantra is called Taraka Brahma. So now this Taraka Brahma will liberate us from the influence of Prakriti, will take us to Nirguna. So Taraka Brahma must be able to bring from Saguna to Nirguna. So it is says that it's the link between the Saguna and the Nirguna is this Taraka Brahma. So it's this Taraka Brahma is Brahma, but with a special function. And what's the special function? It will liberate us, human beings. And so it's a very special, let's say, role of Taraka Brahma. We can say it's the Guru, because Guru liberates us from darkness. So now this Taraka Brahma is Guru. So Taraka Brahma, to come in contact with human beings, can come in contact with human beings in different ways. Okay, so let's say that we have our conscious mind We have our subconscious mind. We have deeper layers of the mind, the unconscious mind. If I am let's say, a developed human being, so I can reach easily to the deeper layers of my mind. In those deeper layers, I can come in contact with Taraka Brahma. But let's say I'm not so developed. So maybe I can come in contact with Taraka Brahma, maybe in the subconscious mind, through dreams. But maybe even subconscious, it's difficult to grasp. So I will need to come in contact with Taraka Brahma with the conscious mind. So to come in contact with Taraka Brahma in the conscious mind, Taraka Brahma must use a form with the 5 fundamental factors, because otherwise I cannot come in contact with that form of Taraka Brahma. So now Taraka Brahma can take a form. So what form will Taraka Brahma take? The best form to come in contact with human being. So that is also a human form. So now Taraka Brahma, taking a human form, that's the easiest way that a human being in the conscious state of mind can come connect with Taraka Brahma. So now in that form, Taraka Brahma can teach, show human beings how to realize Brahma. So now comes the intuitional practice or the tantric practice, coming from Taraka Brahma to human beings, how you, a human being, can realize Brahma, what process you can realize Brahma. So that is the role of this Taraka Brahma. So that was the ontology, all right, ontology part of the philosophy. Let's talk a little bit about metaphysics. In metaphysics, now many of the points we are talking about will come. The cause of creation. Okay, we saw Purusha, we saw Prakriti. Now Prakriti has 3 forces or 3 principles or 3 gunas, and they are the sentient, the mutative, and the static. These 3 forces are in equilibrium. When they lose the equilibrium, it means one force starts dominating. That's when creation starts. So here, these sentient, mutative, and static forces are forming a triangle. There is perfect balance. The moment the balance is lost, one force starts dominating. In this case, the sentient force is the one that dominates. So now creation starts. Creation starts here. So one force is dominating, sentient force. And as the sentient force comes out, it starts to crudify a little bit. Means it's changing. That change makes the consciousness become mind. How it happens? Imagine, for example, we are sleeping. Okay, we are sleeping very deeply. Just think, you are sleeping very deeply. So in that deep sleep, you are not really conscious, but now you wake up. When you wake up, the first thing that happens is you become aware of you. So it's kind of I. And then you are really waking up, you start thinking that you have to do something. So now the idea of doing starts. And then you start doing it. Okay, so in the same way, that infinite consciousness, there was no wave in it. But now that balance is lost, so now Prakriti starts acting. So what is the first thing is that I am. So we say it's the one part of the mind is coming, I am. Then comes another part of the mind, I do. And then comes the part doing. To do, you need something to work with. So what are these? The 5 fundamental factors. So then the first factor, ether. Second factor, air. Then luminous. Then liquid. Solid. Now all the ingredients are there. And this solid has one characteristic. Solid is something that you can divide. Suppose you have a container with water. If you cut, all the water will continue together. But if that is ice, you can cut the ice and it will be separate pieces. So that's what happens. When the solid comes, what was one now can become many. So there comes units. So these different units may be undeveloped units and more developed units come into being. Now we can say, did the first part, the part extroversial part is the sanchara, the introversial part is the pratisanchara. So is it that the sanchara already happened and now is pratisanchara? Actually, this cycle is happening all the time. So as I was mentioned before, new ethereal factor is being created, new aerial factor is being created. So and that from the ether is being changed into air, air is being changed into luminous factor, into liquid factor, into solid factor, and then entities are being created all the time, and entities are evolving all the time, and human beings means us and other sentient human beings from this universe are also realizing and reaching back to consciousness. So this cycle is not that it already happened and now the next phase is happening. It is happening all the time. In our body, for example, there is ethereal factor, and that ethereal factor from our body is also, why do we need to change body? Why don't we keep our body forever? Why doesn't our body can live until we attain realization? Why our body deteriorates? It happens because if our body remains like this always, it means we are trapping some factors within us and not allowing it to move further in its evolution. So that's why we have to change body and get a new one so that everything keeps moving. So as I was mentioning, the 3 parts of the mind, the Mahat, the I am, the Aham, I do, and the Chitta, the done I, get created, and that's the macrocosmic mind or the cosmic mind. So after the cosmic mind comes the 5 fundamental factors get created, then it comes to the solid, gets divided, different entities, plants, animals, humans, and humans meditate, reach consciousness again. So this cycle is happening all the time, okay? Some characteristics here. The matter came from mind. Mind came from consciousness. So consciousness, then there is mind. Then mind, there is matter. And now solid. Now how will this solid become mind again? Because out of matter has to come mind again, because that makes the cycle. So let's see here. The solid factor comes still under pressure. Cosmic factor coming under pressure, if cosmic factor is coming under pressure, two things can happen. Lot of pressure, everything explodes. Or lot of pressure, some part becomes subtle. When that part becomes subtle, it becomes mind. Means it's not physical anymore, because otherwise the pressure will destroy. Because you have the solid thing. If you pressure too much, you cannot reach more. So either everything explodes or some part of it becomes more subtle, and then it can be pressed. So the static force pressuring the solid factor creates an internal physical clash, and that creates mind. From consciousness came cosmic mind. From cosmic mind, the five fundamental factors creates matter. Now from matter comes mind. So that's the cycle. Now this mind gets created is very primitive. So now this mind evolves. As the mind evolves, it needs a better body. So when it's very primitive, it's a primitive body. When it evolves a little bit, it needs to change body, a better body, and then maybe plant body, maybe animal body, maybe human body. And now with human body, we can realize. So that's the cycle. So what is happening here? Basically, consciousness is being modified. So we'll see this better next time, but consciousness is becoming mind. Mind is becoming matter. Matter is becoming mind. Mind again becoming consciousness. So that's makes the cycle. And what is our relation with the universe? We are an expression of consciousness. The universe is an expression of consciousness. Everything is an expression of consciousness. So everything matters, everything is important. Now, why to know a little bit of philosophy? By understanding it, we can also understand a little bit better our practice, which we'll see the next time. And also it guides our actions in our life. For example, if I think that the universe is not real, there is a philosophy like that. The universe is not real. If the universe is not real, then why should I do anything in this universe? Because it's not real, it's an illusion. So why should I do anything? I should just think about what is real. So what is real? The Supreme is real. Supreme entity is real. Universe is not real. So having that philosophy will not help me to work in the world, to look for making a better society, a better world, where to live, and at the same time where to search for the real. So that's the importance here. So I just bring a little bit of summary here. We human beings, we want infinite peace, happiness. We want Ananda. The ontology, everything is one. Monism, not dualism. One. In the metaphysics, the creation, the cycle. And that cycle is always happening. So that's what we talk today. Okay, if mind, that's an interesting question. If from mind becomes matter, then are human beings creating or transforming matter in mind with the spiritual practices? That's exactly what's happening. Our human structure is let's say, a bio-psychic machine. What is it doing? It is transforming matter into mind, and it's transforming mind into consciousness. So that's why we are increasing consciousness by our meditation, by our spiritual practice. We are transforming mind into consciousness. So what is happening here is the more the influence of consciousness, the less the influence of Prakriti. So this process of transformation, I'm eating food. Food is being transformed in my body in different elements. It transforms into mind, and mind now will become consciousness. So that's happening within the human structure. Okay. And now we came to the end of our time, and there is a last thing, how to increase devotion. Actually, that's the, let's say, most important thing in spiritual practice, to increase devotion. Increase devotion means increase the attraction towards the Supreme. And here is just like a love relationship. How do you increase love? So you need to have a closer and closer, more intimate relationship. There is a formula of karma or action, karma minus gyan, knowledge. Karma minus gyan equals bhakti. So to attain devotion, we have to do more than we know. So now we have learned certain practices. Okay, so those practices we have to do. That's karma. We learn the practice, that's jnana. Now we have to do it, that's karma. We also know that if we do service, we also doing action, we are doing service. But we also have to do service with knowledge, which is the knowledge sorry, that everything is that consciousness, supreme consciousness, supreme entity. It's like I'm serving the supreme entity. You know, that's you increase love by doing something for your loved one. No, you do something for your loved one, and that goes on increasing the relationship, making it closer and closer. Okay, I think I covered all the questions that happen here, and it was a nice discussion. Thank you for all your participation. So I'm going to stop here today. This was the second one. We have 5 more to go. You are always welcome to send me questions via email, and I can include in the presentations. If there is some point you really didn't get it and you've been trying to get it, you can put that in the email. I can make my best effort to answer or to discuss the point. So yeah, we have always to remember we are talking about spirituality. Spirituality is something so great that is beyond our mental capacity to grasp it. Okay, thank you, and thank you for participating, and good night, and namaskar.